Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to Wake Up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Wake Up Warchant is brought to you by TNT Supercenter, 14585 U.S. Highway 19, Thomasville, Georgia. Here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's Wake Up Warchant, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality, and there are 3 locations over in the College Town District, Madison Social, Township, and Central. You already heard our names, but just for clarification, I'm Aslan, and he's Corey. Corey, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I hope you had a good weekend.
I did. Let everybody at home know why you're faking it right now, because surely you're not feeling good, because I wouldn't be feeling good if I were you.
Well, yeah, I don't know if this ever happened to anybody else before, but I went and saw the Foo Fighters in Atlanta on Saturday night, and because I knew I'd be, maybe partaking in a couple of adult Michelob Ultras, I was like, I'll get a hotel. I'll stay at a nice hotel. I'll find one on Hotwire or whatever, hotels.com. Get myself a nice hotel. We don't have to be panicked about getting back after the show. So stayed at a hotel downtown in Atlanta that's famous and has been there forever. It got really good reviews. And the valet lost the keys to my car. So, and couldn't find it. Couldn't explain to me how it happened. I still don't know how in the world they just lost my keys. I mean, I think when you're a valet, there's 2 things. There's 2 parts of the job. Put the car somewhere in between lines where it doesn't get hit, and put the key on the little hook. And they went 1 for 2. So I had to rent a car to drive back. They had to tow it to the one of the dealerships in town. And the dealership, they tried to get a locksmith out there to do it, but it wouldn't work because it was a fob, and he couldn't program it, and yada, yada, yada. Ended up having to rent a car, spend $250 to rent a car for a week. And then, I didn't spend it. They're going to reimburse me. I promise you that. And then, they had to tow it to the dealership to get a new fob made. It was good times. Good times.
And they're so
I got a free
lucky.
brunch out of it, though.
All right. Well, then, hey, man,
everything's looking up.
You're ultimately winning.
They couldn't even count my room because it was already paid for through a third party. So they did give me a free night somewhere else, but that was before they knew they weren't going to be able to give me a new key. They thought that the locksmith was going to work. So I haven't even gone back to them since I had to rent a car. And I mean, they obviously paid for the rental car, but they're going to be. I mean, I feel like I should get a week's stay at any Hyatt in the world.
Oh,
who uses the keys to the car?
It's
crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, I just said the name of the hotel. My bad. Well, anyway,
that's all right.
So
hey, Marriott, Marriott, if you're out there, Marriott, we could use a title sponsor. So we know that your valets don't lose keys.
Just saying.
That's bizarre, and they're so lucky that no offense had happened to you, because you are admittedly and self-proclaimed like the most laid-back person in the world. If that would happen to me, there'd be like violence probably, or at least like police presence would have to be called. I would have lost my mind and gone livid. But I feel like you were probably pretty measured in terms of your disposition and handling of these things.
I feel like I handled it as well as I could have. There were a couple moments where because we called down there to say, hey, is there an update? Because they said they were looking for the key. And I'm like, and we said, well, can we come down and go through your department and look for it? Like, look on the chains, because I know what it looks like. And she goes, I'll call you back in 30 minutes. We're really busy, and hung up.
Oh,
as if we were inconveniencing them.
No.
Because they lost my key. But that was, again, that's when I went down. I immediately went down and talked to the manager after that and got some stuff comped, and then was told the locksmith was on the way, which he was, and he got there like 30 minutes later, which was awesome, and then the locksmith couldn't make it work. Anyway, nobody wants to hear about that, but it was because, I still have a pretty cool job, and I got to see the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
So it was all cool. It was just, it was a little bit of a bummer.
Well, a couple people had probably a worse weekend than you, Corey Clark. Their names are Matthew Thomas, Tavares McFadden, Ryan Green, Nate Andrews, Jacob Pugh, Trey Marshall, Jalen Wilkerson, and Ermon Lane. Now, that's probably not fair. I'd probably say that, Tavares McFadden for sure had to have had the worst weekend of anybody in Seminole Nation. I hope nobody lost any family members or anything, because that obviously would supersede not getting drafted. That goes without saying. But, man,
it does.
Wow. You want to talk about swing and a miss over here. So I'm just stuck now with a bunch of Enron stock because I bought all of Tavares McFadden's stock from everybody at home. How in the hell does a kid who is preseason projected in mocks to go in the first round, and this isn't some dude at NFL Draft in my mom's basement.net. This is Kuiper, McShay. Everybody had him in preseason mocks going that high. And I know McShay and Kuiper, they say they hate doing like drafts or preseason mocks that early because they end up cringing when they go back and look at some people's tapes. But how in the hell does a kid who's 6'2", 200 pounds, led the nation in interceptions a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, however you want to look at it, not even get drafted?
I mean, well, number one, when it comes to those mocks in the preseason, I mean, they are what they are. I mean, those are never accurate. They're done, and I hate the word clickbait when it's ascribed to me, but that's exactly what that is. They have no idea what they're talking about. None. They can't. There's really. I mean, what do you look? You're going on. What you're not. It's not like you're talking to GMs because most of these guys haven't been scouted at all. So that's just, hey, he had 8 interceptions last year. He's tall. He must be a pretty good cornerback. We're going to mock him as like 27th because he was an All-American. But they didn't really know. I think he got scouted, number one. GMs and agents, but GMs and scouts looked at him and was like, man, we don't think this guy can play in our league. He's just not fast enough. He's not physical. For that range and in body type, he's not physical. He's not tough. He doesn't tackle. He can't catch a punt. There was a lot of things that he put on tape that said he didn't want to be drafted really high, and he still came out. And, we had that discussion on Friday about when guys should come out, when they shouldn't, and when it's a mistake and when it isn't. Man, you think about what Florida State did this past year. They had 6 underclassmen declare for the draft. One got drafted in the first round because it was Derwin James, and that was a no-brainer. The other guy went 4th.
Josh
Two
Sweat.
other guys went in the 7th round. With 10 picks of the draft being over, they went late in the 7th round. And then 2 other guys weren't drafted at all. It might be the worst collection of decisions by underclassmen in the history of college football. Auden Tate left early to go be a 7th-round pick with no guaranteed money. And you're a 7th-round pick. Now, he's on a team. That's good. But he's barely above a practice squad player. I mean, he's barely above a free agent signing. I mean, you draft in the 7th round. They don't owe you anything. They're not on the hook for anything. You better play well and make that team, play well in the preseason, or you'll be cut. They have no qualms with cutting a 7th-round pick. And for 4 guys to declare early and go in the 7th round or not go at all is preposterous. I mean, has that ever happened? Has another school have 4 guys make such horrible decisions? I mean, it's crazy. What were they hearing about themselves that thought that something was going to be different than what turned out? Did McFadden really think he was going to be a 2nd or 3rd rounder? Did he think he was going to be a 1st rounder? Who was telling him that? And I just went. That was about 2.5 minutes of me talking straight. But it just watching that, watching it on Saturday, it just boggles your mind. Like, what are these guys thinking to put themselves in that kind of predicament?
I should have probably saved all my venom for this, as opposed to criticizing Derwin for leaving and costing himself a few million for slipping down 7 positions. My first instinct is to feel bad and feel sympathy before I feel anger, but I just feel like there's got to be so many things in place here to prevent this from happening. I mean, there's the NFL draft advisor that gives these guys sort of a stock report, and I think the numbers flesh out to where if they don't say you're going to be a 1st-round pick, it's a total crapshoot. They hit pretty highly on their 1st-round grades, but otherwise, if they say you're a 3rd to 5th round guy, it's worthless. It's as worthless as the paper it's printed on or the email bandwidth it takes up on the internet to get sent into your email box. But man, I don't know. I think tape ultimately is what's going to put you on a team or not on a team. But in talking to Tavares McFadden, I think maybe twice, and just seeing him speak overall 5 times, I'm sure he bombed in interviews too. Just very low confidence, no good explanation for anything ever gone wrong. I'm sure that also shied teams away from him outside the lack of production he had his senior year. But that's the worst out of all of them. Like Ryan Izzo going 7th round. I mean, I don't know what he ever really expected to get out of this. That's a guy I thought should have stayed, but ultimately, I don't know. Trey McKitty was probably going to go over. But I mean, Auden Tate, that's the thing. Like you say, like, why are you leaving Auden Tate? And everyone's like, well, he led the team in touchdowns. Like, what do you want? Don't be selfish. Like, this kid's got a family to think about. Well, what are we thinking about? Like, what do we think about this then? 7th round. I don't know how much of this, I'm jumping all over the place here. How much of this do you think is a cultural thing in terms of what Jimbo sort of breeded there, where it felt like, 4 years, whatever, just show up here, man. We'll get you out of here in 3 years, go to the league, and be done with it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's hard for me to say. I kind of want to jump on that and think that has something to do with it, that's when you sell kids in the recruiting process, when all you talk about is the NFL and get ready for the NFL, then the first chance they get to go, they think that's what they're trying to do. That's what they want to do. They're going to the NFL. That's why they're at Florida State, and they want to be there for 3 years, and they're going. But it happens at all these schools. Georgia had a couple guys that left early and didn't get drafted. It just happens. There's something going on with I don't even know. I mean, how many guys left early, declared early, and didn't get drafted at all? I mean, more than a handful. Oh, yeah. And it's starting to happen every year. Who's telling these kids that they're going to get drafted? And I think there should be a rule in place. I know it's always if you sign with an agent, this, that. There should be a rule in place where if you don't like where you get drafted, you can come back. And especially if you don't like the fact that you didn't get drafted at all, you can come back to school. These guys made bad decisions. They were given bad advice. Now, there is an accountability factor there, too, where it's like, man, you're 21 years old, at least. Have some information at the ready. Get people around you that you can trust that will tell you the truth before you make a decision like this. But, I mean, and there are people listening to this that were like, look, what if McFadden makes the team? What if Izzo makes his team? Sure, there's a chance they make a team. Not a great one, but there's a chance. But there's a better chance that they're playing in the CFL or the Arena League, or they're not playing football anymore. And they could have been at Florida State. And again, it's not just, hey, rah, you could help the team win. Not only do you help yourself, number one, you could get better. You get a year's worth of tape. Tavares McFadden's tape his junior year. Imagine a GM watching any of that and thinking, yeah, that's what I want. That's the guy for me. His sophomore year, sure, but the second half of his sophomore year. But we're not coming off his sophomore year. He was just not good as a junior, and he decided to go pro anyway. He played all year like his name was already in the draft, and that's how he played. And they all saw it, and that it came back to bite him. Plus, he ran a 4.8 40. I just, know your limitations, know if you're really going to be picked that high, get good information, get people around you. There has to be a way that the NFL and college football can work together to give these guys not just guesstimates. Yeah, man, we have these 8 guys on this advisory board. They think, yeah, you're a 3rd round pick. Get specifics. Talk to real GMs about it. Because it hurts the league too to put guys in the league that aren't ready. So get guys real information. I don't know how exactly you do that, but this was an abomination. 4 guys go pro early, 6 guys. 1 gets drafted before the 3rd round. Josh Sweat shouldn't. I mean, you left to be a 4th round pick, and I think he's got the best chance out of all of the other 5, other than Derwin, to have a nice career in the NFL. But he's no guarantee as a 4th rounder. It boggles the mind, the decisions they made, and to think that the whole time that, yeah, I'm going to be a 3rd round pick. Auden Tate probably thought he was going to be picked on the 2nd day of the draft.
I'm sure he did.
I think he thought he was going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. He had to wait till there were 8 picks left in the entire draft to get taken. I mean, who's telling you you're ready to come out?
They're going to feel him, though. All these teams that pass on, he's going to make sure I promise you, they all going to feel me. So it's okay. It's fine. They're all going to feel him.
And that's what he tweeted out, and that's fine. That's the right attitude to have.
Not.
And look it out. And I hope
it's not.
It is.
Don't tweet. Don't tweet. You just got drafted in the 7th freaking round. Look in the mirror and realize, holy hell, my whole life. This is why I feel bad. You want to talk about generational wealth, changing your life, guys like Derwin James. What about these kids? These kids were probably being counted on for their family, and they have all these high hopes of what they're going to do and change their life and their family name. And it's not going to work out. It's just not going to. There's a chance. I'm not betting on it. It's not going to work out. Is Tavares McFadden going to be in the league in 2 years? Probably not. Is Auden Tate? Probably not. Are you going to be able to change your life around working in the CFL? No. I mean, not change your life around, but are you going to be able to uplift your family, uplift branches of your family tree? Nope. And ultimately, I feel bad. And I feel bad for these kids. I don't want to be mad. I'm not trying to be upset because they're dealing with enough. I'm sure they're pissed off enough at themselves, their agent, the people they listen to. But dang, how can you be so far disconnected from reality and who you are? And you have to know who you are. Like right now, if you told me, all right, Aslan, you have an opportunity to go audition with ESPN Radio, I'd be like, absolutely not. Like, can I try in a year? Like, can I come back in a year? Give me like a year. I need a year.
You need a year to work with Corey Clark. Just kind of learn the ropes, and then you might be ready for an audition.
Bingo. 106 underclassmen, record number. 37 go undrafted. That's more than a third.
I mean, think about that's nuts. That's and not only that, the sixth round was like 44 picks. The seventh round was 38 picks. They had about 8 or 9, the equivalent of 8 or 9 rounds. Yep. They had the equivalent of like 8 rounds, and still 36 went undrafted.
37.
That's 37. Sorry. I mean, it's what I don't know what can be done. I'm not smart enough to figure out what can be done and how you stop these kids from making these decisions. And look, I know for Florida State fans, you're like, man, we could really use Auden Tate next year. But also, and so from that perspective, you're like, man, you left Florida State to go be a 7th round pick when you could have stayed here and caught 12 touchdown passes and helped us win a championship. From a selfish standpoint, as a Florida State fan, I'm sure there's people out there being like, man, you left us for this, but it was bad. Auden Tate could have used Florida State too. Like, you get a free year of rent, you get a free year of food, you get a free year of conditioning. Now he's a grown up. He has to pay for all that. No meals are free anymore. No rent is free anymore. He has to go make a living, and the chances of him making a living as a 7th round pick aren't great. Now maybe it was a shoulder issue and they were scared off, and he does have a chance to prove himself. It was somebody like McFadden. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered if he came back. Maybe he was still undraftable, but again, he could have helped. He could have helped Florida State, and Florida State could have helped him, and he'd had another year to play football. And get fed for free, get treated like a king, all that stuff that goes with playing football at a big-time school, and it's all gone, and now he has to go be a grown-up and try to make a living, and good luck, man. And I'm not saying that condescendingly. I'm saying it for real. I know I have an edge in my voice. I didn't mean to sound like that. Literally, good luck. I hope it works out for him, because he made a bad decision, and he had a lot of time to think about it, and he made a bad one. And I don't know if it was him ignoring advice or him getting bad advice, but I hope it works out for him. It makes you roll your eyes when you think about 37 guys declaring early and not getting drafted at all. That's incredible.
Let's have a very uncomfortable conversation after this. I just told guys to look in the mirror. I probably need to do the same, and so do a lot of other folks. We'll be right back. It's Wake Up Warchant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
The excitement of the Willie Taggart era at Florida State is in full force. That's why now's the perfect time to sign up at warchant.com. Warchant.com will have wall-to-wall coverage of spring football practice, including the latest on position battles, coach and player interviews, video features, and in-depth analysis. Warchant.com's 3-team writers Gene Williams, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark have 50 years of experience covering the Seminoles. And Warchant.com is the only FSU media outlet with a dedicated, full-time recruiting analyst in Tallahassee with the latest on the 2019 class. For your 30-day free trial subscription, head to Warchant.com and use promo code WARCHANT30.
It's Wake Up Warchant, everybody. I'm Aslan. He is Corey. It's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. All right, Corey, so I'm going to maybe spitball an idea later in this segment if we get to it on what we can maybe do to help these kids out so they're not in this situation again. But the conversation I want to have is, I guess I'm now possibly seen as being part of the media at large that covers Florida State sports. So I have to, own
you're
that.
in there. You're under that umbrella.
So so much of what I know is based on what I've consumed, reading the people that the sources, not the sources, but the amount of media, the articles, the columns, the things that I've read is what shaped my thoughts and my opinion on a lot of the things that were here previously at Florida State before I arrived. So, at what point, as soon as Josh Sweat gets here, that he's a 5-star kid, obviously had a bad knee injury, and then he's trying to battle through it. A guy like McFadden comes here, another 5-star guy. Matthew Thomas, 5-star guy. At what point, so much of what I know is because in preseason reports, we're being told, listen, so-and-so looks great in camp. So-and-so, this guy's a first-round talent. There's so much stuff that we're being told in the media from, I don't know, like, is it assistant coaches? Is it, high school coaches that are, because we have this preconceived notion about all these kids before they even play a single down. At what point do we need to maybe filter out who we're listening to that tells guys these things? Because writers hear this from people around programs, from people that are around these players. Oh, listen, this guy is going to be a first-round guy. He's got first-round talent. At, like, what point do we need to maybe be like, yeah, I don't know, like, table that stuff, or at least qualify it with a certain caveat before we kind of let it out to the masses? Because then that's when people run with things and guys start developing preseason reputations and never live up to it.
Well, I mean, that's part of the deal with the recruiting business at large. It's just that, a lot of it is hype. Now, some of it is justified.
Well, I don't feel like it's recruiting. I feel like it's when they get here. Like we hear like Josh Sweat. Oh man, he's strong like an ox. Man, he's really flashing. He's fully recovered after that knee. Because I mean, listen, they were preseason ranked number 3, so it's not just a Warchant thing. It's not just a Tallahassee media thing. It's nationally. But going into the season, it's like Derwin's obviously number 1 pick, and then Derek Notty's going to be wreaking havoc. And good for Derek, by the way, getting drafted. I think he went 3rd round to the Chiefs. So that's
third round, yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. Good for him, man. For real. But, Tavares McFadden, he was an All-American. I mean, he was an All-American. This guy's an All-American. He didn't even get drafted. Guys, some guy from Australia who's never even played football, he didn't get drafted, but he got signed as an undrafted, guy for Philadelphia. So that's a bad sort of comparison. But, I mean, there's just so much of what we're told fan-wise is because, like, we're relying on people who are around the program, and they're getting these, sort of, evaluations from coaches, or I don't know, whoever the sources are, that are like, listen, man, Tavares McFadden is going to be a first-round pick. He'll be 3 years and out of here. Josh Sweat's going to be a freak, blah, 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 blah. And then what happens? Like, nothing.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to comment on that just because I didn't have a lot of those conversations with people in the program about, like, a guy's I know what you're talking about, but it wasn't me specifically doing that. Not that I would pass the buck. I would admit a mistake 1,000 times. But if somebody ever told me that Josh Sweat was going to be a first-round pick after his first year here, I would have been like, oh, what? I mean, I wouldn't have believed that. I think a lot of it, though, and I don't even know if it's so much off-the-record stuff, but Jimbo, during his recruiting press conferences, made the guys all sound like they're going to be playing on Sundays. He would do that for every guy he signed. And so and then he'd get mad at people for having high expectations for these kids. But, you can't have it both ways. You can't build up your recruiting classes like they're the next, Oakland Raiders. And then that was a bad example. I should have picked a good team, the Eagles. And then get on to us when we're wondering why they haven't played in the middle of their sophomore year. He's like, hey, it used to be they had time to develop. Now if they're not stars by the time they're freshmen, you give up on them. And, one of the daily admonishments we'd get from him. But I think that might have had a lot to do with it, man. Jimbo really touted his guys. And that's a positive trait. He liked the guys that he brought in. He brought them in for a reason. And he would always tell you, on or off the record, yeah, I think that guy will play on Sundays. I think that he's going to make a ton of money. He'd say that for a lot of them. And quite frankly, it happened to a good bit of the guys he recruited. 35 or whatever in a 4-year span got drafted. So you can't argue with the results. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know where how much is on the media and how much is and where it comes from. I don't know why McFadden was an All-American other than the fact that he had the 8 picks the year before, but he also gave up 8 touchdowns. So Florida State fans knew that. I thought the second half of his sophomore year, it wasn't just the interceptions. I thought he was really darn good. He made a lot of really good plays. He was a good cornerback.
He was. He really was.
And it wasn't just a bunch of interceptions, but also a bunch of touchdowns. The second half of the year, he was really good. But, man, this past year, he didn't look like the same player at all. And obviously scouts saw that. But I don't know if he would have been able to come out after his sophomore year. I don't know if where he'd have been drafted. I feel like he would have been drafted higher because he wouldn't have had a year of horrible tape for them to look at. But I don't think he'd have been a first-round pick if he'd have come out after his sophomore year. That speed when you're talking about the NFL, man, you can't bust a 4.8 or 4.77 in the 40 or whatever he ran. Man, that almost, I feel like if you're a GM, you're like, well, that's a wasted pick. He can't play on an NFL field. He can't run with our linebackers. And we're going to have him out there covering Antonio Brown? That can't happen. So I think when you run that slow, I think we put way too much stock in the combine. I say we as in the media and fans.
It was a 4.67. That's still slow for a cornerback. It was a 4.67.
Was it a 4.67?
Yeah.
I thought one of them was in the 4.7s when he ran the 2. But yeah, so 4.67. That's just you can't. That it's hard to cover NFL receivers when you're running a 4.67. And with Auden Tate, it's hard to put NFL cornerbacks when you're running as slow as he did. And those guys knew what they ran the 40 in. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. I don't even think I answered it, but I got to talk for a little while.
And
that's good for everyone.
He did. I think there were certain, Jimbo is always seeing the positive in his guys and whatever that's admirable or not admirable or whatever you want to look at it that way. But there were certain guys where he'd be like, oh, he's going to be a really good player for us. But he would also, then there was like, this guy's going to be special. Like, that's when you would circle a guy and focus in on, like, I think he gave Josh Sweat that sort of, praise. I mean, you say things about Matthew Thomas, really good, can trigger well with the ball, but I feel like it wasn't stuff from Jimbo. It was just, we would go into a preseason and we would read, whether it was preseason magazines or anything, and you're just like, this guy's got, this guy's going to be a first-round talent. He's going to be a first-day talent. He's a guy that's going to make a living in the NFL for sure. And it's like, okay, so that's so much of what we're generating as fans in terms of expectations. And then you see the rubber meet the road at the NFL draft, and you're like, dang. Like, I mean, just
well, quite frankly, you're also like, you know what? Maybe Jimbo didn't recruit nearly as well as we thought he did.
Maybe that's a fair.
What I mean?
Fair discussion.
Where are the draft picks, man? You had what has he had the last year? 6 draft picks, 7 draft picks, whatever it's been, and 2 of them were in the 7th round. They're barely draft picks. Where'd they go? Where'd all the talent go? You go look. Clemson writer, I guess, is doing a story on all the attrition Clemson's had, not from guys leaving early, but other reasons, transfers and medical DQs and whatnot. So he asked me for the numbers on the Florida State for the last 3 recruiting classes and how many of those guys are still left in the program. Go back and look at Florida State's 2015 recruiting class. They signed 20 guys.
Woof, I know.
8 of them are already out of the program. And they didn't leave early for the NFL. They are out of the program. Guys like Marcus Lewis, they transferred out or quit.
Shamar Kilby-Lane. Was he 15?
Yeah.
Shamar Kilby-Lane.
DeAndre John, 2015. It is that is one of the worst recruiting classes in Florida State history. It had Derwin in it, I think. But that's it. I mean, it is a terrible recruiting class. And it was ranked probably 7th in the country at the time. Jimbo.
Third.
Was it third?
Third by rivals. Third.
Wow. And so 8 of the 20 aren't even on campus anymore 3 years later. And I'm not 9 now, 10 if you count McFadden. So 10 of the 20 guys aren't even on campus anymore. And only one of them got drafted. All the other ones are just gone. I mean, what happened there? What happened to the way they evaluated and the way they recruited? I don't understand it, but there has been a dip in talent. I mean, the NFL draft is telling us that. Just like the NFL draft keeps telling us that Alabama does not ever have dips in talent.
Jeez, it's absurd.
Florida State had a big old dip in talent. What'd they have? They had 5 drafted, 6 drafted?
Florida State?
Yeah, this year what'd they have? They had 5, right? Yeah, they had 5 drafted out of 12 possibilities.
No, 6.
Yeah,
Derwin, Derek Nottie, 3rd round. Josh Sweat, 4th round.
That's right.
Rick Leonard. How about that?
Rick Leonard.
Good
That's
for
right.
him,
My man Rick. Good for him.
Rick Leonard. 4th round in New Orleans. You'll love New Orleans, Rick. Go to the Ruby Slipper Cafe for brunch. Take a girl there. You'll impress her. And then Izzo and Auden Tate going in the 7th round.
Yeah.
That's
so not really knocking your socks off.
No.
4.477.
And the interesting thing is, I was out in Madison County with Michael Langston doing a story on one of these incoming recruits. And, I'm not a big recruitnik, but I do click on a couple things and kind of maybe keep just so I know some of these names. And the thing that's really kind of boggling my mind about the way that Taggart's recruiting, I'm just like, I haven't heard of any of these kids by and large. Like I'm like these, and I was asking Michael, I'm like, are the guys that Willie has been recruiting, are these guys that Jimbo and his staff were on? And he's like, by and large, no. And that's the thing, because I gave so much sort of deference to Jimbo and his eye for talent and developing guys, doing what he did to Xavier Rhodes, doing what he did to Cam Irving, and obviously Jameis, and all these guys that he targeted and put all of his chips on and cashed out in 2013 with. And I'm like, I'm just kind of concerned. I'm like, dang, Willie's going after a sort of breed of athlete, size, speed that Jimbo wouldn't go after. Now, you could arguably say now that that's a good thing because of how we're seeing the way these last few recruiting classes have fleshed out and with the way the draft went. So it's bizarre. It's just, I don't know.
It's just odd when you think about Florida State was on top of the college football world in 2014. They had won 29 straight games. They were in the playoffs. They're the reigning national champs. And their recruiting classes after that have just been a bit of a letdown. They've been ranked high, but, man, the talent isn't what it was. I mean, there aren't going to be many programs that have 29 in 3 years drafted, but now you're looking at half that in a 3-year span. And I just thought he was going to have it roll into the point where it was always going to be churning out, 24 draft picks over a 3-year span or a 4-year span, like 6 to 8 every year, including multiple first rounders. And it just hasn't happened. The talent isn't there. Matthew Thomas was a talented guy. I thought he was. I was a little bit surprised that he didn't get drafted. He was a 5-star guy, and we were told how good he was, and there were times where he showed how good he was. But then again, he had bad film. He couldn't stay eligible. He probably didn't knock it out of the park in the interviews either when they had to ask him, hey, man, why were you always ineligible? He couldn't have had a good answer for that. So, man, maybe it's a different kind of kid he was bringing in. I don't know, but something dipped considerably in the NFL. Not just the record from last year tells us that, but the NFL draft tells us that, where you had 6 kids declared early. 2 of them didn't get drafted at all, and 2 others barely got drafted. It's not a great sign of what kind of program it was. But hey, it's not his program anymore, is it? No. Is it Aslan?
Well, then, like Ermon Lane tweets out something about making my return to wide receiver. Ermon Lane back in action. Well, then at what point do you tell the coaches, I don't want to move to defensive back? Like, can you not tell them I don't want to move to defensive back? I'm not going to be able to make it at defensive back. And I know during that Showtime show, I think you could even hear Charles Kelly either telling Ermon or talking to Jimbo about he can make a living doing this defensive back thing. And you're like, oh, good for him. This is going to be a feel-good ending. But now he's going to the NFL. They're going to move him back to wide receiver. Much.
It's a lot of mysteries. The only bigger mystery about any of this, to me, the only thing that's more mysterious than this whole NFL draft of Florida State is how a hotel loses a car key. That's always going to boggle the mind.
I'm going to spitball this real quick. We got about a minute, then we got to go because we're going really heavy on these first few segments here.
Man, the next segments better be 30 seconds each.
They're probably going to be. So, the ultimate user in all of this is the NCAA, right? The NCAA, doesn't pay anybody anything and keeps all this money, and all these kids are underpaid, workers or whatnot. At what point, and the NFL is also profiting on this because this is their minor league system, and they don't have to have 3 levels of it like baseball does. They don't have there's no G League and whatever you want to call it, but they obviously have college basketball as well, the NBA. Like, at what point, with all this money the NCAA is making, should they not just kick money back to the NFL so that NFL front offices can either add a couple people to where they have legitimate people at each team, at least has a team of 2 or 3 guys or gals whose only mission is to scout people that are going to be underclassmen. Like, so right now you work for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Your only job really in the front office, and you call it a part-time position, or maybe you can do one of these sort of minority, feeder programs where you can get more people of diversity involved in the game, but have them just work and look at tape on guys that are going to be emerging juniors this coming season or redshirt sophomores, that they're draft eligible, so that you can give them real, tangible sort of information on. Because, again, this is misinformation. I don't know how much of it's guys being delusional and being told they're good their whole life, but we'll go to commercial break. We'll get better. We'll be right back. It's Wake Up Warchant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Corey, what are your thoughts on AC/DC? I'm going to play an AC/DC song right here.
I like them. They're hard rock.
Somebody want
AC/DC. Deal with them. There's like 7 songs of theirs that I like.
AC/DC so like #basic. But they got some good songs. You can tap your feet to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that you bob your head to.
Yeah, so we're listening to you folks out there. Somebody requested AC/DC. There you go. Enjoy. It's Wake Up Warchant. I'm Aslan. He is Corey S. Clark, senior writer and columnist for warchant.com. So it almost happened, Corey. Mike Martin almost got career win number 1,976 to become the winningest coach in major college baseball history. But he did get 2 victories over the weekend, which has now tied him with the late Augie Garrido. Knowles will look to get that win, I don't know, at some point, I guess, this coming weekend against Clemson. It's a 3-game set, but it starts on Saturday. So, I don't know, pleasantly surprised that Florida State was able to get 2 wins out of Miami. What do you walk away this weekend thinking about Florida State baseball?
The same. I'm not. Miami's bad. That's a bad baseball team. That's not very good. They're still under 500.
Bad Miami, bad.
I was just, once they tied the record, so Sunday happened. It was a really nice crowd. They had a video planned. I know they have a video planned. They had a whole award ceremony and everything planned for after the game because it's such a neat accomplishment. They had a chance to do it, and it did not surprise me at all that this particular baseball team, this particular year, kind of wet the bed.
What does that mean?
Miami broke the game open with a 4-run inning on 1 hit. That's just what, Florida State had a chance to break the game open in the very first inning and did what they always do. They hit into a double play. And again, now I'm sounding really negative. I shouldn't. They still have a winning record. They're still going to the tournament. It's still a good program. But, this team, even when it wins a series, it leaves you kind of shaking your head a little bit. And that, now he's going to break they had a chance to make it perfect. And I just I did not expect them to handle the pressure because there was an inherent pressure that came with a game like that. Knowing that the next 3 games are on the road, and you really want him to do it at home. You have a chance to do it at home against the team that he beat for his first win, all that stuff. And I was not surprised that this team did not handle that kind of pressure well. All that being said, let me throw out the biggest caveat at all, the biggest asterisk at all. Andrew Karp got sick.
Right.
The whole complexion of the game changed, and I need to be fair in that regard. They lost their starting pitcher in the second inning. And he's their second best starting pitcher. And the kid that pitched Saturday, Van Ike,
yeah.
I'm never going to know how to.
Ike.
He was awesome.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I guess I said all that stuff. I was pretty harsh on him, but you really do have to remember they lost their starting pitcher in the second inning, and the guys that they brought in just couldn't get it done. And that inning busted open because they couldn't throw strikes and they couldn't pick up the baseball. And they didn't score again. They scored 3 in the first, but they could have scored 6, and then they didn't score again until the game was completely out of reach. So it was the way this season has gone. It felt like kind of par for the course.
The way this season's gone, the way his career has gone. Frankly, I mean, they're cruising. It felt like they were cruising.
That's harsh.
Well, they were honestly. My buddy texted me yesterday. He's like, "Dude, I got to come up for the game." I'm like, "Don't." I'm like, "They're not going to win it. Just come up." When he's going to have his he's going to keep adding to the record. You're not going to miss anything special. Just you can come when he has his final game or when he gets 2,000 next year. And they're cruising, and it felt good. It really did. And I'm not the romanticism guy anymore. I'm really skeptical, obviously, about everything because I'm a bitter old man. But it almost felt like everybody was there to will that team to a win yesterday. And they're cruising along just fine through 4 innings. They're up 3-1, and it's like, all right, this is not a good Miami baseball team. It's going to be good. It was a beautiful day. Everybody was there. They had, like you said, they had everything, kind of set up to celebrate the moment. Even in the media room, they had additional lighting and additional cameras. And I mean, everything was set for this to be like this special, magical moment. And whenever this team has the opportunity to have a big time magical moment, it just never works out the way you want it to. And it's just, I don't know, at what point do you no longer become surprised, or at what point are you no longer called skeptical or a jerk or harsh when you kind of point out the fact that there's a proven track record with the way things have worked out for this program over the years, and it's just you can't expect things to really all of a sudden turn on a dime.
Again, I was what I said at the beginning of this segment, but losing Karp was a big deal. I mean, you could have gotten. You wouldn't be giving up a 3-run homer in the 5th inning if Karp's on the mound. You'd like to think because he's a really good pitcher, and maybe he deals into the 7th, and then you bring in whoever you need to bring in. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know, but I mean, I get it. But he's going to break the record.
He is. I mean, you walk the bases loaded, just set up a double play, but then you walk the next batter, and you walk in a run, and then you finally do get a ground ball. I think like another batter later, but he boots it and 2 more. It's just everything, and what like. I really think, and this is not a hot take, obviously, if it didn't happen last year, it's not going to happen. It felt like if the way the narrative of Mike Martin's career is going to be, if it wasn't going to happen with last year's team, the team that had really no business getting there, the team that struggled, that looked horrible, that got embarrassed by Virginia Tech in the middle of the season, that went through all that nonsense just to become eligible to make it into the tournament. If they couldn't just be the quote, like the idiots of 2004 with the Boston Red Sox, if they couldn't find a way to figure it out, like who's going to? When you have no pressure on you, if that couldn't happen, it's just it's sad because again, the things that plague them on Sunday, and again they won the series. He's going to get the record. It's all going to be great, but those things don't go away when the lights get brighter and the crowds get bigger. Like when you go to Omaha, you're not going to start figuring out, like they're going to know how to start turning a double play. Stephen Wells isn't going to drop a freaking easy out in foul territory and then end up allowing 2 more runs to come across an inning when you go to TD Ameritrade. Like things like that don't seem to happen. But again, they'll try to get a career win number 1976 for Mike Martin at some point in their trip during the Clemson Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So hopefully it won't be in front of 500 people on a Monday. But if not, if they get swept, at least they can come back and do it in front of the home crowd against Mount St. Mary's the following week. We're going to wrap the show up right after this. It's Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
What's going on, everybody? A bit of a programming note. I'm going to be on the road with Michael Langston, WarChant.com's recruiting analyst, so we might have a show like on Wednesday. I don't know if we'll have a show Tuesday. We probably won't. Thursday, probably not. But at some point midweek, Corey and I will get together over the power of the internet and put together a show. And then Friday, we will definitely have a program for you because we will be in Orlando on Thursday, which is really confusing. But anyhow, we'll have a show for you on Friday. It'll be during the booster stop for Willie Taggart in Orlando. Corey Clark, myself, Gene Williams, founder and administrator of WarChant.com. We'll all be out there. I think at Buffalo Harry's or Harry Buffalo, or I don't know, it's called something. It's like it's downtown Orlando. It'll be lit, as the kids say. Come out there, hang out with us.
Yeah, you're never gonna regret it. You won't regret it if you come out and hang out with me and Aslan. We're good people.
All right, man. So Corey, during this whole entire magical run to the Elite Eight over the spring with Florida State, you were always pulling us to the future. You're like grabbing our hands and like, guys, it's all right. Just let's look at the future. It's going to be great. And one of the things that you were always pointing out to, and rightfully so, was the fact that they were going to return a guy that could potentially rewrite the record books when it comes to defensive play and blocking shots, and with Ike Obiagu. And that is no longer apparently going to be a piece of the future puzzle for Leonard Hamilton and Florida State basketball, which is, I don't know, it's crushing, but just dang. Can we not have anything go right for like 2 years maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you make an Elite Eight run for the first time in 25 years, and then you lose 2 guys to transfer, 2 guys that played. And we're young, we're underclassmen. C.J. Walker was, and again, I don't think C.J. Walker's a huge loss, but Ike Obiagu is. I mean, that guy in 2 years, I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know where he's going to land, but he's going to be an incredible defensive player, the defensive player of the year. I mean, he's going to be he's going to be like the Trae Young of defense. He's going to change teams. I really think that's his potential. He is an incredible shot blocker and shot alterer, and he's leaving, and it makes no sense. I don't understand it. He played a lot last year. So I mean, I don't know. Hope maybe we'll find out the story. He just announced on Twitter that he was transferring on Sunday, and it had been rumored for a couple of days, but that he was going to transfer. He made it official, and obviously I doubt Leonard would talk on the record about it. And I don't know if Obiagu ever will, but it's strange and it's disconcerting that 2 guys that weren't asked to leave, we don't think, are leaving the program. And, especially because they were underclassmen that were part of a kind of magical Elite Eight run, and they were part of a nucleus, a core coming back that made Florida State fans excited for the future. Well, now you've lost, we still don't know about Kofor, and you've already lost Angola and now 2 other guys. So a team that you thought was returning almost everyone from its nucleus is now at least 3 down and maybe possibly 4 down from the team of last year. It's bizarre. I'm actually really interested in what this is all about, because it doesn't make any sense for a kid with that kind of future that talked so glowingly about the guys that recruited him and his teammates and his head coach and Florida State would just up and leave late in April of his freshman year. Yeah, and he played a lot.
Apparently the hubbub is there might be some sort of disconnect between Obiagu's guardian and Leonard Hamilton, but obviously that's pure conjecture, but that's what seems to be the sort of the talk about how this happened. I just hate, this is why I can never get into college basketball probably. And I know so many people up north look down on people in the South for the way we celebrate and follow college football. And I'm sure it's probably bizarre to guys who work on Wall Street and then look at guys that, go to Fayetteville, Arkansas and put, pig noses on their face and say pig suey and stuff. But how can you be a Kansas fan or a Kentucky fan and deal with the nonsense of college basketball where you're living and dying with recruiting and the way these guys go back and forth? I remember being in Jackson. There was a kid who committed to Ole Miss out of college or out of high school, went to Ole Miss for a year or two, transferred to Kansas, actually played for Kansas, and then he ended up in Murray State. How can you play for 3 different schools and be 20 years old? It just the whole culture of basketball and the way, I don't know, it's still the NCAA, and I feel like nobody ever has to sit out. Well, then at least grad transfers, it makes sense in football. It's like he's got his degree, he can be immediately eligible. These kids, they leave at age 19 after 1-2 years, and they just transfer, and then they end up playing for the team the next season. It feels like it's just such a the way the sausage is made in college basketball. Pass. I'm not a fan of it at all.
Yeah, and it's been that way for a while as far as, if you want to talk about handlers, you want to talk about shoe guys that are close to these guys, close to these players, obviously the AAU coaches and all that. And, some AAU coaches, the AAU scene kind of gets a bad rap because I think, there's 100 people, there's about 100 kids in the AAU scene that it's kind of gross how it's used and how they use the AAU scene and how college coaches have to bow down to them. But for a lot of other kids on the AAU teams, it's actually great for them. It gets them notoriety. It gets them discovered at all these tournaments where these coaches are. And you're not going to play to North Carolina. You might go play to Hofstra. You can go get your education paid for. It's a good way for a lot of kids to be developed and discovered. But for some of them, it has become a part where if you're not starting by the time you're a sophomore at your high school, you just go transfer to another high school. Or if you don't have anybody good players around you, even though you grew up with all these kids, but they're not as good as you're going to go transfer to this basketball factory. And I'm sure it happens in other sports too. It just seems really pronounced in high school basketball, especially up in the Atlanta area where I covered high school sports. It happened all the time where kids just transferred to go play with other. They did their LeBron James. They took their talents to McEachern or South Gwinnett or wherever it was. To go play with other really good players. And it just, that kind of rubs you the wrong way. And the AAU scene can be pretty gross. All that being said, I still don't, I don't know. It's just odd to me that Obiagu would transfer. I can't even fathom a reason where you develop these relationships with these coaches and your teammates, and you just went on an Elite Eight run, and you were third in the league in block shots, and you played 12 minutes a game, and your coach talks you up as the next Bill Russell. And then you're going to go leave, sit out a year, and go play who knows where. Just odd. And man, as a Florida State fan, you're like, man, what? Can we ever get excited about this basketball program?
No.
You finally make an Elite Eight run. You come within a couple baskets of the Final Four, and then 2 guys that automatically, when the season's over, transfer. 2 guys that were part of the rotation. What? It just it doesn't. It's not a good. I don't know what the deal is. But it's just not, again, I say it all the time in different contexts, but it's not a great look.
Oh, you make
the Elite Eight, and then 2 of your rotation players, 1 starter, and 1 guy that would have probably started next year, should have been starting all year instead of Kumaji, leaves, just bounces. Sorry, that was fun. I'm going to go on to future endeavors. Thanks, Florida State. Just, not a great look.
It's not. It's a cold world out there, though. Hopefully the world will keep spinning, though, and it'll give us something to talk about the next time we reconvene. Again, we'll tag back up and do something midweek. If not, we'll definitely talk to you guys on Friday. Have a great one. He's Corey Maslon's Wake Up Warchant.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source, knows now is a time of true excitement for Nole fans everywhere. That's why Warchant.com is especially proud to announce its newest team member, senior writer Corey Clark. Combine Corey's expertise with owner Gene Williams and managing editor Ira Schoffel, and Warchant.com boasts nearly 50 years of experience covering the team you love. It's Taggart time in Tallahassee, and that means now is the perfect time to sign up for your free 30-day trial. From National Signing Day to March Madness, Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.